I wanted to talk in depth about California's Ethics in Government Act. The EGA is contained in California's Government Code in Title IX, which may sound familiar because it concerns political reform, and then Chapter 9.5, which relates to ethics. Section 89.500 of the California Government Code specifies that this particular chapter 9.5 is known as the Ethics in Government Act of 1990. And chapter 9.5 includes 4 articles. Article 1 deals with honoraria. Article 2 deals with gifts. Article 3 deals with travel. And Article 4 deals with campaign funds. So Article 1 on honoraria defines the term honoraria to mean that it's a payment made in consideration for a speech given, an article published, attendance at a public conference, a private conference, a convention, a meeting, even a social event or a meal or similar type gathering. And Section 89.502 prohibits any elected state officer or an elected officer of a state government agency from accepting any honorarium, and no candidate for elected office or judicial office or local government office can accept any honorarium either. Article 2 on gifts prohibits any elected state officer or local government elected officers from accepting gifts from any single source in a calendar year with a total value above the specified amount, which is currently $590. This also applies to candidates for elected state office, candidates for judicial office, as well as for elected office in local government agencies. And again, this limitation is from a single source in a calendar year. This section doesn't prohibit or limit payments or reimbursement for travel or lodging, wedding gifts, and some other gifts that are exchanged that are not substantially disproportionate in value. That amount is adjusted annually to reflect changes in the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. And so it started at $250 in statute in 1990 and is now close to $600 pursuant to the FPPC. Article 3 on travel basically provides that payments and advances or reimbursements for travel, including actual transportation and related lodging and food, is reasonably related, when it is reasonably related to a legislative or governmental purpose, or to an issue of state, national, or international public policy. Those payments are not prohibited or limited if certain specified conditions are actually met. There's also an exception that for payment of travel that's provided by a government, a governmental agency, a foreign government, a governmental authority, a bona fide public or private educational institution, a tax-exempt nonprofit organization, or by a person domiciled outside the U.S. if it substantially satisfies the requirement for tax-exempt status for that individual. Also, the gift of travel doesn't include some specified instances, such as when it's paid for by campaign funds, if it's provided by the governmental agency of a local elected officer, an elected state officer, or even a member of a state board or commission or certain designated employees, or travel that's reasonably necessary in connection with a bona fide trade or business or profession, or travel that's excluded from the definition of gift for other specified reasons. And then Article 4 on campaign funds basically specifies that a candidate for elected state office can only accept contributions within statutorily specified limits. and that all contributions deposited into a campaign account are basically deemed to be held in trust for expenses related to the candidate's election or for expenses related to holding office. And then there are a number of specific code sections dealing with the expenditures that aren't subject to the trust imposed by law for other specific use of campaign funds. In addition, there is a prohibition on using campaign funds to pay for or reimburse the cost of professional services unless those are directly related to a political, legislative, or governmental purpose. There are some other prohibited uses of campaign funds, such as campaign or business clothing generally, the cost of tickets to entertainment or sports events, any personal gifts unless directly related to a political or governmental purpose. Also, they've now excluded penalties or judgments or even settlements for claims related to sexual harassment, abuse, or assault. There's also code sections relating to the allowance of campaign funds that can be used to make donations or loans to bona fide, charitable or other tax exempt organizations, governing the use of campaign funds for vehicle expenses. Generally, campaign funds are prohibited from being used to compensate a candidate or an elected official for performing their political, legislative, or governmental activities. They are allowed to be reimbursed for certain out-of-pocket expenses, and some other extensive rules are out there. And again, these are all covered by the Ethics in Government Act found in the California Government Code.